Welcome! Today I'm going to be making a housewarming card using the new stamp set from Kindred Stamps. This is called Happy Haunting. It is from their August 2018 release, and I'm going to be using that sentiment down there on the bottom that says, I hope your new house isn't haunted. This stamp set is inspired by a favorite movie, and complying with Kindred Stamps policy, I will not say what that movie is here. However, if you know what this is, then you know what it is. A cousin of mine purchased a house over the summer, and she's having a housewarming party close to Halloween, so I thought that this card would be perfect for her. I'm just getting the stamps out and onto my Tim Holtz stamp platform here because I'm going to be doing some alcohol coloring with my Spectrum Noir markers. I'm using a piece of my Spectrum Noir cardstock, which I already have cut down there. I'm also going to be using that little Thought Bubble stamp from the Lawn Fawn Christmas Dreams set to put one of the little sentiments from the Happy Haunting set, so I'll be stamping that out as well. I'm using the My Favorite Things Extreme Black ink, which I have grown to really love. I do have to, I think, double ink this one up, but I end up editing some of the footage out just for time. I'm a really slow card maker, so these videos could be like hours long if we let it go that far. So I do have that little, the tiny little sentiment from the set that just says Showtime that I'm going to stamp in that thought bubble, and I'm using the stamp platform to do that because I tend to be a little bit of a spaz when trying to place something very specifically. I don't know, it's almost like my hands don't work or something if I have really specific work. So I am filming this in our new apartment here, and I was not aware that the sun was going to be coming in so offensively next to me when I was filming, so I did end up cutting a lot of my coloring footage out of this just because the glare is really bad. But they're the Spectrum Noir markers that I used for the gentleman, and now I'm coloring just finishing up putting the details on that one, and then I'll move on to coloring the girl. And I do briefly show what those colors are. Basically, you could color these however you wanted to color them with whatever color palette. These are just the ones that I chose because they matched kind of the overall theme of the card that you'll get to see in a little bit, sort of the color theme. I just thought that it would be fun. I'm just putting a couple of little little details here and there. I'm not a very great colorist. I tend to just do 2, maybe 3 at the most color blends. I'm okay with my rudimentary preschool level skills. I enjoy the process regardless of how professional it looks. I just think that it's fun. And these little characters are super cute, and they're really easy to color. There's nice big lines to color. And I was kind of working from memory of the characters because it has been a few years since I've seen the movie, and I actually do have the movie, but I'm not sure where it is. As I mentioned before, we just moved. I know that all of our DVDs are unpacked. I just don't know specifically where that one is, so I should have to find it. It might be time to introduce my 10-year-old daughter to that fandom this Halloween season. She loves Halloween. So anyway, so I've colored the monster, I guess you could say, and the little girl. And I did fussy cut these out, and I used my non-stick scissors. They're not the greatest, and they're starting to lose some of their sharpness. I am thinking of going with the Tim Holtz mini snips eventually. And I used the Lawn Fawn die to cut out the speech bubble. So the background of my card, I'm using this very large haunted house die cut, and this is something that I actually made myself several years ago using a file with the Cricut, and I found it as we were moving, and I kind of left it to the top of my pile, and it just so when I was unpacking, and it just so worked out that it would be perfect on this card. Because the die cut's a bit larger, I am making a little bit of a larger card. I'm making an A6 card, which is 4.5 by 6.25 inches. So a little bit bigger. And I'm going to do some ink blending. I'm going to make some grass here using a couple colors of Distress Oxide. We have peeled paint, and what was the other one? Oh gosh, I don't remember. We're just kind of making like a forest moss is the other one, just kind of making a very dark ground and just cleaning it up a little bit. And then I'll go ahead and make a background sky as well, and using seedless preserves and faded jeans, which is my favorite color combination for sort of night skies. I didn't want to make this too spooky. I kind of wanted to keep it fun, and these two colors also coordinated nicely with that haunted house die cut as well, so I thought that it would look good. I'm just putting the ink on generously as possible, and I am using Bristol Smooth cardstock here, and just blending and blending and blending and blending and blending until it comes with something that I think would look cool. I am aware that the house is going to cover up most of this background, so I'm not paying too much attention to how it looks in the center. I'm just trying to make sure that maybe the inch around the edge that I know is going to show around the die cut looks the way that I want it to look. And I do want a little bit of water on there, but that ends up, even though I dabbed it up right away, it made it a little bit too white. So I just put a little bit more ink right on top again, on that to just darken up those spots a little bit, so you can still see the water spots, but they're not quite as dramatic as they were. And I did hit it with my heat tool off camera after this as well. This is my quick cleanup. I love this glass mat. I just spritz it with a little water, paper towel it up, and that mat is clean and ready to move on. And it dries fast as well. So in the next panel here, I'm just going to be die cutting a little bit of a hill for the grass there, and I just used a Lawn Fawn stitched, I think it's called a stitch hillside die. I no longer even remember what they're called. They're quite beaten up. It's a good thing dies last forever. And I'm just adhering the ground piece to my background piece, and then I'll get that all adhered on my card here. One of my favorite things to do when card making is I love to make scenes, in particular outdoor scenes, whether they're during the day or at night. I absolutely love to build scenes. I feel that they tell a story, and you can really make something custom for someone that you love. And I really love that aspect of card making. It's something personal. It's a keepsake for them. And plus they're just a lot of fun to make. So for this double-sided tape that I'm using on the back, I'm using some Couture Creations 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and I get mine from Hallmark Scrapbook. And this and all of my links will be available down below for all of the products that I can remember anyway that I've used in this project. And just attaching the panel to the card. And then I'm going to take my die cut and I'm going to put it on top of my background. As you can see, it is a good sized die cut. It does take up quite a bit. So I use a combination of that double-sided tape, and I'm going to use some glue, I think. Use some glue to hold down this die cut, because you never know. I've been really loving the Lawn Fawn glue tubes lately. I think I'm already on my second or third one since they came out in the spring. Really good quality glue, and I really love the little tube that it comes in. You can get a wide variety of glue blobs out of there. You can do teeny tiny, you can do lines of glue, you can do big blobs of glue. I just love it. So here I am just experimenting a little bit with where I want to place them, and then I decide that I want something on the windows to make the windows shiny. So I pulled out my Nuvo Crystal Glaze, and I'm just going to put a thin coat on all of the yellow here, which is the windows. And I didn't plan this too well. Obviously it's going to be wet, so it needs to sit. So actually at this point I do set the entire project aside overnight. So the next clip that you see from this will be the next day once the Nuvo drops are already dry. So I think this is the end, and I set that aside for the night. And here we are the next day. The Nuvo drops are dry. I have white heat embossed a sentiment. That sentiment that I mentioned earlier, the I hope your new house isn't haunted. I've white heat embossed that on some black cardstock. I actually used the scrap of the cardstock that I had left over from when I cut the card base, the A6 card base, out of my Recollections black paper. So save your scraps, you never know, they come in handy. So I'm just gonna white heat emboss that, and I like the Wow White, I think it's called Superfine. I actually have the bottle right here. Opaque Bright White Superfine embossing powder. I really do like this little embossing powder. This is the second bottle of white embossing powder I've ever had, because that's how long that it lasts. And using my little coffee filter, we did just purchase a new coffee maker for the new house, and it uses the cone shaped coffee maker, so it was like an added bonus, a super score, that I got all of the coffee makers that we coffee filters that we had from the old coffee maker to add to my stash. Anyway, so I'm just going to cut down that sentiment into size here. I want to run it across the top and kind of work on how I want to set things up a little bit. So I'll use my small Carl cutter to cut the sentiment into size. And this is me just putting some foam squares on the back of my little characters and placing them. My foam squares are from Miss Sparkle & Company that I get in those dollar bills at Joann's, and put some on the back of that little sentiment there. Just a little fun, a little fun thing. Okay, so yeah, here we go. Now I'm going to cut this down using my little Carl cutter that I keep on my desk for just these little sentiment things, because my big, large Fisker's guillotine is a bit overkill. And a little foam tape behind that, but I'm not putting foam tape all the way across because, as you can see, that die cut is really thick. So I probably would not have been able to get foam to go on top of it and still have it lay kind of flat and even. So I didn't put any foam squares in the middle there and just on the ends so that it would cover the top of that. Yeah, you can see that it's really thick. It's like 4 or 5 different layers of cardstock. So I just place that, and it's not done. And get the trash out of the way. I'm going to use, this is a fairly new purchase for me, recommendation of a friend. It's the Uniball Signo Pigment Ink white pen, and it shows up really nicely on dark cardstock. So just for a little fun, I'm just out doing the outer edge of the card. I'm just putting some white polka dots. Just a little something fun. I'm not paying too much attention on making sure that they're even or anything. It's just a fun handmade little accent. And there you go. There is everything. I'll use that same pen to fill out the inside of the card. Oh, and this is me just showing you I'm using some Hero Arts unicorn white pigment ink to put my little custom stamp right on the back because it shows up quite nice. Sorry about that. I was interrupted with a phone call from the school nurse. I had to go pick up my daughter. She's not feeling very well. Anyway, so I finished off the card with a stamp from Technique Tuesday. The stamp set is called It's a Masterpiece. It's just a really small stamp set, and they have a lot of really fun greetings. I like to put them on the back of my personal cards. And the one that I stamped back on the back of this one that says, I made this, it's priceless. And again, I use that unicorn white ink to do that. And then that completes the card. I'll let that dry a little bit before I pack it up to put it in my bag to go to the party in a couple of weeks. But anyway, so I hope that you have enjoyed. Again, this is the new release from Kindred Stamps called Happy Haunting, this very cute small stamp set. I hope that you have enjoyed, and thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.